The road to becoming a physician, starting off as a pre-med and undergrad, all the way from medical school to residency to fellowship and beyond, is without a doubt one of the most challenging career paths you can undertake. Everybody's going to have challenges and everyone's going to have setbacks along the way that you have to overcome in order to fully succeed. What will truly define your career as a doctor and as a medical student isn't how you handle the successes, but how you handle the failures and how you learn from them. Hey there everybody, welcome back to MedEd Insight. Today's video, I want to talk a little bit about one of my own failures on this path to becoming a doctor, and that is when I was rejected from medical school the first year that I applied. Nobody likes to talk about rejection in medicine because most medical students and physicians are very high achieving people who have typically been very successful throughout their school and throughout their life. Anytime anybody has had any sort of failure, it can be really embarrassing and something that we feel ashamed of. So I want to talk today about my own failure of not getting into medical school that first year, what I learned from it, how I overcame that setback, and what I think you should know if you're in a similar situation where you just got rejected from medical school. So as you might know, I came from a non-traditional background. So I started off as an engineer and then decided about halfway through undergrad that I wanted to become a doctor. So I knew I was going to be a year behind just by the time I got all my classes out of the way and took the MCATs and applied. So after college, I went and worked for a year just as a regular engineer at a full-time job while I was applying for medical school. To be honest, I thought I was going to get in no problem. I didn't apply to very many schools, but I had applied to the state school, Indiana, and I kind of thought I was a shoo-in. Most of the people I talked to at my college told me that I wouldn't have any problem and that I would do just fine, and that being an engineer sort of gave me an advantage because of my non-traditional background. So I really wasn't that worried. But then as I sent in the applications and interviewed and the months went by and I checked the mailbox every day and never got that letter, I started to realize that maybe I wasn't going to get in that first year. I ended up on the wait list at the beginning of the summer before school was supposed to start. And then about a couple of months after that, I realized that it wasn't happening and I wasn't going to get into medical school that first year, and I had been rejected. Now, looking back in hindsight, I didn't have the best MCAT scores. I think I was right at the average for what IU had, and my GPA was below average, but I figured that was okay because I was coming from a really challenging engineering background. But nevertheless, I got rejected, and I was sitting there in the summer before I thought I was going to start medical school trying to figure out what in the world I was going to do. I felt extremely defeated. This was really the first time that I had had this sort of a setback where I had essentially failed at something. I had tried to do something and been told that I wasn't good enough yet and wasn't going to get what I had been hoping to achieve. So I kind of went through the period like everyone does. I was really upset. I sort of moped around about it for a little while. But what I wanted to particularly share was some of the best advice that I got from an orthopedic surgeon at the time about what to do after I had been rejected. And this really applies to just everything in life, even just beyond getting into medical school or getting your residency. I went and I met with him and I sat down and said, look, I haven't gotten into medical school this first year. At the time, I still wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. And so I went to him and I said, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should work for another year and reapply. I don't know if I should go take a class. And he basically just looked at me and as straightforward as he could, he said, what is your overall goal? And I said, well, for my career, my overall goal is to become a doctor and get into medical school. And he said, okay, so we know what the goal is. Now, what do you need to do in this present moment in order to achieve that goal? And that really hit me because nobody had been that frankly honest with me. And the context he was telling it to me in, when I talked to the people at the medical schools about what I needed to do to get in, they told me that I needed to basically prove to them that I could excel at graduate level science courses. Since I was an engineer, I didn't really take the advanced biology and advanced chemistry beyond just the required prerequisites. And so I hadn't, in their mind, really proven to them that I could achieve and excel at the level required for medical school. So in one sense, I was being told what I should do, and that was go back to school, take at least a class or two to prove that I was able to excel and do fine in these harder science classes. But when you're telling that to someone who's in their early 20s and has a great full-time job and is living with one of their friends from college and just having a great time, the thought of giving all that up to then go back to school that isn't what I ultimately want to do in medical school was really disheartening and really hard to hear. But when I met with this orthopedic surgeon, he basically just told me, if they're telling you to do this and it's what you need to do to get to your goal, why are you even asking the question? Why are you not doing it? And it really made me realize that that's true. And I think in aspects outside of medicine, you really have to think, what is my ultimate goal I'm working towards? And what can I be doing right now to help me achieve that goal? In my case, my ultimate goal was to become a doctor. And so what I needed to do at the moment was go back to school and then reapply. So after thinking about it a little bit more, I realized that's what I in fact needed to do. And I went back, got a master's degree in biomedical engineering, reapplied that second year, and then was fortunate enough to get accepted that second time around. And now that I look back, I'm almost grateful that I had that experience because first of all, I learned a lot of really cool stuff whenever I got my master's degree, and it was really great exposure and experience. But number two, I learned what it meant to to fight for something and to really understand what your true goals are. Whenever you're just kind of gliding through things and not really having much to overcome, you can sort of lose sight of why you're motivated to ultimately do what you're trying to do. But as soon as someone takes it away from you or puts a challenge in front of you, you really have to look at yourself and think about how badly you want it. And so for me, I realized in that moment how badly I wanted it and was able to act in order to ultimately get that goal. So now when I'm in residency and intern year here, I still sort of have that mindset. I'm thinking about what do I need to be doing right now in order to set myself up for success in the future, whether that's looking ahead at fellowships or looking ahead at things beyond fellowship. What can I be doing today to make the most out of tomorrow? If you're in a similar situation, let's say you've been rejected from medical school, you've been rejected or didn't get into residency, it's okay to be upset. It's okay to take some time to sort of process what's happened and to come to terms with the honesty of the situation. You can't hide or run from what happened. You have to be able to accept that at that moment, you didn't succeed necessarily. You do have this hurdle you have to overcome, and you have to look at yourself in the mirror and think, okay, why didn't it happen? What do I need to do from now on so that next time I try it, I'll be more successful? And, in the grand scheme of things, you're going to end up being a doctor for dozens of years. And so if it just takes one more year or 2 more years, it doesn't really matter. If it's truly what you want to do with your life and devote your career to, then it shouldn't matter if it takes 2 or 3, 5 more years to achieve. Ultimately, it's what you want to do. And if you're really wanting to do it, it doesn't matter what it's going to take. You're going to keep fighting. You're going to keep reapplying. You're going to do those necessary steps in order to obtain your ultimate goal. So take some time to self-reflect. Ask people why this might have happened. Ask your advisors at the school why you didn't get in. Try to learn more if you can about what limitations you had that prevented you from doing what you wanted. So that way in the coming time, you can act to rectify that situation and overall make yourself a better candidate and a better person. But the biggest thing is don't give up. I know it's embarrassing. You might feel ashamed to have failed at getting into medical school or to have not matched into residency. Face that challenge head on. Do what you need to do in the current moment in order to achieve what you want tomorrow. There's no getting around it. It totally stinks to have to go through those situations and be told by someone that you're not essentially good enough. But it's not that you're not good enough at all. It's that at the moment right now, you might not be at that point. But that doesn't mean that you can't improve to be good enough the next time around. So thanks for watching this video, everybody. I hope this provides a little bit more insight into my own experience with getting rejected from medical school and having to reapply. If there's anybody watching that has had a similar situation, I hope it gives you some motivation, a little bit of guidance on what to do from here and to not get too discouraged. Feel free to comment below. Let me know if you've been rejected from medical school or if you didn't match in a residency and are really struggling with it. Be happy to comment some more or talk more about ways you can move past it and improve your situation. Don't forget to subscribe to this video as always. Hit the thumbs up if you liked watching it, and we'll talk next time. Thanks, everyone.